Everyone. I hope all is well. Um, I'm glad to be back on YouTube. Sorry for the little break and time off. I was basically on vacation. I wasn't home for about um, a week and a half, so I just wasn't really able to have the time to make any YouTube videos and didn't trade a whole lot. But as always, I'm going to be going over the S&P 500 E-mini futures for today, Monday, June 30th, start of the new week. I'll be posting every single day this week, and I'll be back posting every day of the week, this whole entire month, and for the near future. And I'll let anyone know if I'm going to take a little break or if I have some time off. So I really apologize for not posting the past week or so, but I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Um, as always, before I start, huge shout out to Al Brooks. His course will be down below, and a huge shout out to my mentor Troy H. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be trading this method. But I'm just going to go over the price action today and the trades that I think were the very best today. I'm actually doing a combine right now for a funded account, so I don't have any buy and sell orders on this because I'm actually doing it on another thing. Please let me know if you guys want me to dive more into the combine that I'm doing for a funded account. But I'm still just going to go through the price action that I had and then the best trades that I think. It was kind of a choppy day, a choppy trading range day, the whole entire day. It was, hard to trade, but towards the end of the day, there was one really good trade and another one I thought was pretty good. So we start off with a good push down. If this had follow through, as you can see at its peak, it was almost 10 points. If this had follow through, I was going to be very bearish early on. I even thought that maybe even selling the close of two would have been a decent trade, but it was too early in the morning. And yeah, you could have scalped a quick 5 points or whatever, but I don't think I want to go short if it's only one bar, no follow through. Not really a huge momentum indicator there without having a follow through bar. But then it gets just really choppy. Mostly, like I said, trading range behavior. You get these two pushes down and then kind of sideways. Get a deep push trying to push to the EMA. But as you can see, very strong rejection off the EMA. You would think that bar 13 and 14 might need a second leg, 9.5 points down. But once again, strong rejection off the EMA up. And usually the first time it breaks through or tries to break through the EMA, it fails. So you could see that again. You get a huge push down and then kind of a two pushes back up, rejecting the EMA. Really tried, but didn't get it closed below. And then 21 to 22 finally closed below the EMA. But like I said, even thinking about yesterday, the the overall trend hadn't closed below the EMA in a lot of bars. So I think the first time that you get a close below the EMA with a doji bar like 22, it's most likely going to reject. So, 2023, you could look at it as it's just a pullback or, rejection off the EMA. Hypothetically, if you were feeling a little risky, you could have bought 23 scalped up, thinking that it was going to reject the first time closing below the EMA, but that's exactly what it does. Rejects up, more trading range. You can kind of see there's kind of a top here, not necessarily maybe with the top of two, where it's kind of having a hard time breaking through this and respecting it, and then it really creates like kind of a double wick here at 28 and 29. That's kind of the top of the trading range, but definitely a lot of trading range. But you would think maybe this needs a second leg up, but just not super strong. You have one micro gap. You have some pretty decent bars, but 26, 27, 28 kind of seem like this is running out of steam. So it gets a pullback and a second push up, but a very short push up. Sorry, I was meant to use Fibonacci. As you guys can see, it kind of gets to that 50%, 55% pullback. Um, Kind of rejecting off the EMA again. You get one, pullback two, but a very short second leg. If you bought the close of 30, you could have made, about 4 points. And then a strong rejection down. I honestly thought that this might get a second leg, 33, 34, 35. I think I actually took this trade once it closed below the EMA here, thinking that it was going to maybe really push down. But this is kind of in the middle of the trading range if you think about it. It's not quite to the bottom, it's not quite to the top. And a lot of the times you would want to sell the top of the trading range and buy the bottom of the trading range. Definitely when it's kind of been bouncing and been this very all over the place price action the whole entire day. So it tries to close below it closes below the EMA again, but once again it gets a strong rejection and pushes to the top of the trading range again. Um, this is another one that's a little bit tricky. It is at the top of the range, and you could think 40 as kind of a give up bar and kind of climactic. But a pullback failure in 41, there's definitely an argument that you think that this needs a second leg, 4 bar micro channel with some very strong momentum indicators. You have 2 micro gaps, a very strong bar on 37, pushing above the EMA with strong rejection. Definitely needs a second leg up. And you could have definitely looked at this as a pullback failure and tried to go, maybe to the pre-market Globex high. But I did not do that. Once again, kind of top of the trading range that you could expect. This is very much at the top. It's been trading range all day. There hasn't been a significant breakout. So a little bit sketchy trying to catch the second leg. As you can see, dumps back down, and this is now the third time testing the EMA for the Bears. See it on 22, strong rejection and a failure. You see it on 34 and 35, strong rejection failure. And then you finally get another one on 43, and then a pullback failure below the EMA on 44. And I think the most significant thing in this trade was 44. The 44, the pullback of this trend really looked like it was still trying to stay below the EMA. And even if you wanted to wait for more confirmation, you could have waited for 45 and sold there. And as you can see, I think, this is tests it once, tests it twice. Probably on the third time, it will finally get a breakdown. And you could have sold either the close of 44 or 45. You would have to sat through 48, a little bit of a loss, but then it dumps, get a quick 5 points on 50 and 51, and then you get this kind of climactic news bar on 54, and you could have made a quick 15 points or about 16 points selling from 44. So I thought that was a pretty good trade, but once again, not something I wanted to take. And it still really respects this trading range on 54. As you can see, the bottom now, there's a lot of support here, having a hard time breaking through. Tries to break through the trading range again on 60 and 61 with some good bars down. But once again, it's kind of at the bottom of the trading range and it doesn't really get crazy follow through. But definitely tricky price action. Definitely a lot of stuff that I don't fully understand, but this was definitely at the bottom of the range. These are sometimes at the top of the range, but there's sometimes, trades that you think will get a second leg and they don't. I think that's why you have to be very careful and really be sure and like the strength factors. And that's when we get into the trade that I took. At this point in the day, I think I was down about 10 points. Um, and then we got 64 and 66 with a great breakout, closing above the EMA. And as you can see, it hadn't closed above the EMA with a really strong bar since 37. And if you bought 37, you could have gotten a quick scalp up for about 5 points. So I really liked the breakout on 66. I thought that it probably wouldn't get a pullback after such a strong close. It was probably going to get more of a price up. So I bought 66 and it went up very, very well, about 10 points. And then, at this point, this is the best breakout we've had all day. 66 is a huge momentum indicator. I think I bought more at the close of 66, expecting, I might have to sit through a bit of a pullback, but this is definitely going to get a second leg. This is the biggest momentum mover of the whole entire day. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bar microchannel with 3 micro gaps, tick gaps, tons of strength factors, all closing, the last 3 bars of this push up all closed on their highs. You get a slight pullback on 68. 69 looks like a trend continuance. 70 is a little bit scary, but you kind of get a complicated pullback, it looks like here. but I would definitely had a very high, about I'd say 85 to 90% expectancy to have at least a second push up to the Globex high, or maybe even the top of the range, maybe pushing to the open of the day. So I had my take profit at the Globex high, and as you guys can see, gets one pullback, two pushes up to the Globex high, and actually gets a third push, three, bunch of take profits up here, and it dumps the rest of the day, kind of late in this day, but I wouldn't have wanted to trade at that point anyways. You guys can see too on the 15-minute chart, it's pretty clear just how massive um, the one trend of the day was that finally got a second leg, a very impressive second leg. So you kind of get all this choppy price action, top of the top of the range kind of up here, bottom of the range down here, having a hard time breaking through. 22 finally is like the biggest bar of the day with a big micro gap on the 15, and you get 3 bars up to the pre-market high. This probably needs somewhat of a second leg. Gets its second leg on 26. Um, all the bulls that are in take profits at 26 at the pre-market, or some other um, place up here, and then it ends up getting a reversal from all the take profits here at the end of the day. Um, like you can see on the 5 minute, and I'm not sure why it isn't loading. But yeah, as you can see on the 5 minute, you get one, pullback two, pullback three. People know now it's three pushes up, double top, and take profit. Bulls are all taking profits, and that causes it to dump a little bit low down. Um, so yeah, that's me going over the day. But real quick, I just want to look at the weekly chart really quickly. As you guys can see, I think it's really interesting, kind of the weekly, and even going even um, a little bit less into the daily chart. We're very far off the EMA, very far. And as you guys can see, it's just a fact that when you get these big pushes up, it's eventually going to push back to the EMA or try. So I really think we're in a position right now where we're going to get a push back to the EMA at um, some point soon. Maybe at some point this week, we're going to have a very bearish day. We're at the all-time high of the S&P 500, and there's definitely got to be some pushes back down. As you can see, even on the weekly chart, we get huge pushes down um, in March on the 31st, and then tests back to the EMA, and now this is kind of getting back above the EMA, and it's probably going to try to test back down. So just interesting thought that I'm keeping in mind. But that was my overall outlook on today, and one trade that I did take, and another trade that I thought was pretty good. And like I said, I'll be back to posting every single day this week. If you guys made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Um, and yeah, huge shout out to Al Brooks and Troy H. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day.